Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from the night. There were a lot of blowouts, so I'm really only going to cover 4 games, and I'll give a couple shoutouts at the end of the video. But of course, as you can probably tell by the title and thumbnail of this video, I want to start off with Heat versus Bucks. Bucks getting a 1-point win over the Heat, and I kind of want to focus on the Heat even though they lost, because I think there's some super interesting conversations that we need to have about the Miami Heat. Of course, starting off with the Milwaukee Bucks, shout out to them. They were down decently in this one, and they ended up coming back. Giannis 28, 17, and 5, 26 from Chris Middleton, including a huge 3 right at the end of the game that kept them in this one. Jrue Holiday with the game-winning bucket, as well as 25 points over the course of the night, 6 rebounds, 11 assists. Just all around a pretty good game for the Milwaukee Bucks, coming out and getting this win over the East-leading Miami Heat. But on the Heat side of the ball, I mean, they lost by 1 without Kyle Lowry, so it's not like a terrible loss or anything. But really the thing that we need to talk about is Jimmy Butler. In this game, Bam Adebayo had 18, 12, and 4, 21 from Gabe Vincent, and 6 assists. He's been so solid over the course of this season. 37 and 5 from Tyler Hero. He was phenomenal in this one. 15 from Duncan Robinson, 12 from Caleb Martin. And if I read you off all these stats, typically these are the stat lines you would see for a Heat team when they win the game. Like, you typically don't see all of these stats, and you see the Heat lose. But when I tell you that Jimmy Butler had 6 points and was 2 of 14, and he didn't score in the last 36 minutes of the game, as well as was a minus 21 over in a 1-point loss, it's not great. And this has been the big debate with the Heat over the course of this season. The Heat are obviously capable of winning a championship. You don't go out there and get the first seed in the Eastern Conference, or at least have it for a good portion of the season, even when you've been pretty relatively unhealthy over the course of the year, without being a championship team. It just doesn't happen. But the question mark that I and many others have about the Heat, and I want to apologize, I haven't made a Heat video in forever, and they've been killing it. I worry about Jimmy Butler as the first option. I know he's done it in the past. Of course, he was phenomenal in the bubble, leading the Heat to the NBA Finals, a 6-game series against Los Angeles Lakers, putting up ridiculous stat lines, hitting clutch bucket after clutch bucket. And who knows, maybe Jimmy will really step it up in the playoffs. But last year, he was kind of mediocre, getting outscored by like Brent Forbes at times. And over the course of this year, he's just been super inconsistent. Like, it's so weird how he's one of the better 3-point shooters at the forward position in the league, and he can't hit a 3 to save his life. I think he's below 20% from 3 on the season, and then he'll have nights like this where he shoots 2 of 14, and the question really comes down to, can Jimmy Butler at this current stage in his career, because he is getting older, and he is regressing, it's happening. We're watching it happen, and it's not like he's a bad player. I still think he is a really, really good player, probably top 20-ish, but can he be their number 1 option to win a championship, or is that gone? And that brings up a lot of questions. Is it Tyler Hero now? Because really, whenever I watch the Heat, of course, Jimmy is always going to take some of the big shots, but Tyler Hero is really their go-to clutch guy, and it makes sense. He's a really good scorer. He's able to hit some really difficult shots. He's one of their better 3-point shooters, or at least 3-point shot creators. So it makes sense that he would get the ball in a lot of those situations. But if it comes down to a series maybe against the Bucks, and the Heat really need to go get a bucket to win, who's going to go get them that bucket? Is it Tyler Hero? Is Jimmy Butler going to be able to go get that bucket for them against a team like the Milwaukee Bucks? And that's my big question for this Heat team. If Jimmy can turn it up in the playoffs, even if he doesn't turn it up all the way up to the level that we've seen in the past, as long as he's like consistently solid as an offensive number 1 option, this Heat team can 100% win a championship. They are absolutely capable of doing so. I just worry about that. And that's part of the reason why I'm hesitant sometimes to call them like the championship favorites or anything like that, because I do worry about their ability to put up points. I am not worried at all about their defense. If they lock in completely on the defensive end the way that they're capable of, it's hard to beat them on any given night. But there have been, like, this isn't the only time where Jimmy's had one of these crazy games recently. I think he had a game a couple nights ago where he shot like 5 of 20, 5 of 21 or something like that. And he did hit some clutch buckets down the stretch. When they needed him most, he stepped up and he delivered. That's kind of just what he does. He's always been one of those big time players. But what's going to happen in these playoffs? The East is stacked. You need to be able to not just lock opposing teams up, but you need to be able to go out there and score. Are they going to be able to get those buckets? That's the big question. Now, they do have Eric Spoelstra, who is one of, if not the best, I think he's the best coach probably in the NBA right now. He can scheme around some of these issues. He can run plays to get guys open shots, and they've got a bunch of guys that can knock down those shots. But when it comes down to it in the playoffs and you need that star power, you need that guy to go out and get a bucket, who's going to get it? Is it Jimmy? Is it Tyler? Is it Bam at times? Because Bam hit a really tough jumper today in like the mid-range that kept the Heat up for a little bit before eventually the Bucks took over. But it was a really tough bucket, and it was super impressive to see. Maybe Bam can be more aggressive and work his way towards being like a 1A, 1B alongside Jimmy, or hell, even a 1A, 1B, 1C with Tyler Hero. Who knows? I just know that when it comes down to it in the playoffs, you need a guy that can go get you shots. You need your star player to go make things happen. Is Jimmy going to be able to do that? And I think that's a legitimate question to ask. Like I said, I know what he's done in the bubble. It was one of the most impressive and honestly one of my favorite playoff runs by any individual player ever since I've been watching the sport of basketball, because it was amazing what he was doing, not just on every night, but the amount of minutes he had to play due to those injuries. He was doing everything for that team. But it's now a couple years later, and we've seen he struggled last year against a team like the Milwaukee Bucks. And I know it's the Bucks. They're great defensively with Giannis, Chris Middleton. They're good for game planning against the Heat, as well as the Heat are good for game planning against the Bucks, because these two teams have seen each other so many times, both in the regular season and playoffs over the last couple years. But if you want to be an NBA champion, if you want to come out of this Eastern Conference, you've got to be able to beat some of these great defensive teams that are out East. Can Jimmy put up the buckets when it matters most? So that's the question. I'm asking y'all because I don't have the answer. I think the Heat are a championship contender. I think I probably have them in my tier 1 alongside like the Bucks and like the Sixers maybe are like my top 3 teams at the moment. Maybe the Nets can come along and add themselves, but I need to see them with the whole Ben Simmons situation first before I make any kind of decisions on that. So I do have the Heat like in my upper echelon in the Eastern Conference. They're one of my top 3 contending teams. It's just a question of what's going to happen offensively in the playoffs. So I'm curious. Let me know what y'all think. Can Jimmy Butler be that legit number 1 option? He's shown it in the past. He's shown he can be that guy, but can he be it this year? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm curious to know what y'all think. This is just something I wanted to mention. I do want to give one more shout out to the Heat. They've been incredible over the course of this season, putting up ridiculous wins despite missing guys left and right. Tyler Hero missed some time. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, guys that Kyle Lowry didn't play tonight. They have missed so many guys over the course of this season, and I think it speaks to how solid they are as a roster and how great their coaching staff is that they still are up there in the first seed in the Eastern Conference. I'm just curious, and shout out to the Heat. They've been doing great things. I hate that the first video that I'm making on them in a while is kind of like questioning them because they've been so good. Just let me know in the comment section below. Moving on from that game, the Knicks played the Sixers tonight, losing by 15 points to the big 3, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid. Sixers, 123-108. Knicks are really struggling. I do want to give a big shout out, and I might make a video on him in particular. RJ Barrett has been a monster since the All-Star break. He had that big game. I think it was actually against the Heat where he dropped over 40 points. He had 30 points and a half. He had 30 tonight alongside 6 rebounds and 7 assists. He's been efficient. He's been knocking down shots. He's starting to put together those consistent games that the Knicks really need to see from him. Because right now, RJ is the closest thing they have to a guy that they want to build around. But a big issue has been like, can he put it together consistently? Can he be efficient? And RJ is starting to figure that out more. He's got to figure out his issues at the free throw line because he continuously misses like half of his free throws in big games. And he could have way bigger scoring performances if he was able to knock down those free throws. I'm sure he'll figure it out eventually. He's too good of a shooter not to. But it's just been cool to see kind of a Knicks team with very little direction have a guy like RJ Barrett who is supposed to be potentially their franchise guy going forward, or at least one of their building blocks, really start to shine. So shout out to RJ Barrett. He's been a big bright spot for this Knicks team despite kind of a down season. On the Sixers side of the ball, it's the same stuff we've been seeing. Dominance from James Harden, Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey. 27-12-4 from Embiid. 26-9-9 from James Harden. 25-4-3, including 21 second half points for Tyrese Maxey. It's like in the first half, it was like, oh, maybe the Knicks are going to hand them their first loss of this era. And then the second half, the Sixers were like, haha, we were just playing around. Like, it was completely different in the second half. The Sixers completely locked in. And it kind of showed the value of having those two-star players. Even if you're struggling, when you have two guys as good as James Harden and Joel Embiid, it doesn't really matter because you can just figure things out in the second half. I know the Knicks aren't a great team or anything like that. Like, they're not even going to make the play-in tournament, but still, to go and like kind of flip the script completely in the second half like that, it's been super impressive what I've seen from them so far just through their first 3 games. Haven't lost yet, and it doesn't look like they're going to for a little bit. Moving on from that, of course, I'm going to talk about the Thunder game. Thunder snapping the Denver Nuggets 6-game win streak, winning by 12 points, 119-107, in a game where they were missing Kenrich Williams, Lou Dort, Mike Muscala, Josh Giddey, amongst others, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl as well. So only like 9 guys were healthy. 7 of those guys have spent time in the G League this season as well, so it was a super impressive win. Shea continues to go on a tear, 29-7-5. He didn't score 30 like he did his first 3 games post All-Star break, but, got as close as he could. If he just knocked down like one more free throw, he would have been there. Hit a dagger 3 in this one. His 3-point shot has looked phenomenal since the All-Star break, which really is the key to him kind of regaining form from last season. He's playing potentially the best basketball of his career right now, scoring the ball, distributing, turnovers a little up, but it's going to happen when you're missing a bunch of ball handlers. But shout out to Shea, just continues to do great things. Isaiah Roby was a monster, outscoring Nikola Jokic in this one with a career-high 26 points, as well as 7 rebounds and 5 assists. He was a monster. He played good defense on Jokic too. Of course, Jokic still got his. It's Nikola Jokic. 9-11 from Alexei Pokusevski, who made his 3rd start of the season today. 12-8-3 for Darius Bazley, 13 from Trey Mann. It's just been super fun to watch this young Thunder team. I'm super excited for the future, seeing these young guys that are going to be pieces going forward. It's awesome to see. They've been really, really shining. I just want to see this team fully healthy because it's been a while since we've seen that. Get Josh Giddey back, get Dort back, get Mike Muscala back. I just want to see all the guys playing again to kind of see what it's going to look like going forward, because there haven't been a lot of times this season where this team's been fully healthy, and now that Shea's kind of snapped out of that funk that he was in for a little bit, kind of around like early January, late December, I just want to see this team fully healthy. Hopefully it's soon. And finally, I want to talk about the Jazz Rockets game. Jazz winning 132-127, 37 points for Donovan Mitchell, 27 and 17 from Rudy Gobert. They just dominated. They did have to go to overtime against the Rockets, which isn't super ideal, but the Rockets, credit to them, had a really good game. Christian Wood hit a 3, a really deep 3 as well, to send this one to overtime. He had 24, 10, and 5 in 43 minutes. Jalen Green had 27 points, one of his better games as of late, and he's really been on a tear recently. He's making a case to try and take Josh Giddey's Rookie of the Month. Well, I guess Josh Giddey missing the beginning of March. It looks like Jalen Green might kind of snap Josh Giddey's streak, but we'll see when Josh Giddey does come back. 16 and 12 from Kevin Porter Jr. You had 8 points from David Nwaba, which is fun. Jayshawn Tate did get hurt in this one, so he only played 11 minutes, but you had Kenyon Martin Jr., who really stepped up big with 20, as well as 7 rebounds and 2 assists. Just a good game from the Rockets, a really good tank game. You put up a fight, you send it to overtime against a really solid opponent. You end up losing. It happens. It bolsters your lottery odds, and you see a lot of flashes from your young players. It's exactly what they probably were looking for. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about the games today. Also, shout out to Isaiah Thomas, made his Hornets debut, which is like team 37 for him at this point. He had 10 points, so shout out to him. Report that Zion Williamson might be kind of on track to come back at some point this season. The Pelicans got a pretty big win today, so I really want to see Zion back with this new team because CJ's been balling. Brandon Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas. I think it would be super fun to see Zion with this roster, so hopefully he comes back soon. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about it today. If I forgot any performances, let me know in the comment section below. But for right now, I appreciate y'all watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Real One, say it back.